email, and attached to that email was a letter that I had written him that contained a Freedom of Information Act request.
Okay, and how did you send that?
I sent it via email on March the 13th, and I believe the email was sent at 10:56 a.m. I believe that's exhibit number 1. Yes.
And what did you, I guess, just go ahead and tell us, what did you request in your,
Well, I asked for 9 items, all documents that mention or discuss Pine Bluff police officers shooting people in the last 5 years, all documents that mention or discuss Pine Bluff police officers discharging firearms in the last 5 years, all documents that mention or discuss Pine Bluff police officers involved in friendly fire incidents in the last 5 years, all emails received or sent by you that mention or discuss Pine Bluff police officers involved in friendly fire incidents in the last year, all emails received or sent by any of your staff that mention or discuss Pine Bluff police officers involved in friendly fire incidents in the last year, all emails received or sent by you that mention or discuss Monroe Isadore in the last year, all memoranda received or sent by you that mention or discuss Monroe Isadore in the last year, all written correspondence received or sent by you that mention or discuss Monroe Isadore in the last year. And the final one was all emails and written communication received or sent by any members of your staff that mention or discuss Monroe Isadore in the last year.
okay, and go ahead and tell us what happened there.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't receive any response from the chief that day or the next day. Definitely not over the weekend.
And this was on the 13th, you said the next day, the 14th, Thursday, the 15th, Friday, and over the weekend.
Right, no response whatsoever, no on the 13th or the 14th, no objections, no claims of exemptions, nothing like that. I didn't receive anything, and I believe there's an exhibit in here that the city attorney provided in one of her pleadings that the chief notified her on March 17th. I don't know when that exactly happened, because although the email is in here, the email wasn't sent from me, it was sent from the chief to the city attorney, and that's not until March 17th at 11:43 a.m.
Okay, so I guess something happened on March 17th, but you were out the loop, or was it?
Right,
okay.
right. I didn't hear about this. I mean, I received notice of it when the pleading was filed, where an answer to the amended complaint was filed last week.
Okay.
I believe that happened. The answer to the amended complaint was filed on the 9th of April.
Okay. Let's just stick to the timeline. So March 17th, you did, and we're referring to Exhibit 2.
Right, Exhibit 2 I didn't know of on March 17th.
Okay. And so Exhibit 2, there's, I guess, can you tell us about Exhibit 2?
No, just nothing other than what I said, that it's an email from the chief to the city attorney that says the request is very broad. We will gladly comply. If we can narrow it down a little bit, let me know. And that was sent from the chief to the city attorney on March 17th.
So when were you first actually contacted regarding the
I wasn't contacted at all regarding my initial request. On March 18th, I sent a letter following up on my request that I asked the chief in the letter.
March 18th, and you were referring to Exhibit 3?
Exhibit 3. And
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
what I'm saying, the letter just states that on March 13th, I faxed an email to your attention of Freedom of Information Act request. As of this writing, I have not received a response, and this is on March 18th. And I said, I called your office today and was referred to the city attorney, Althea Scott. I have called her several times, but she has not been in today, and my calls have not been returned. Today, I also sent a courier to your office to pick up my responses. The courier was told that there was nothing to pick up. The courier then went to the city attorney's office and was told that there was nothing to pick up there either. For these reasons, I intend to file a complaint against you in the morning in an effort to obtain the FOIA responses I seek. And I also added, please let me know if there's any way to save my filing fee. That's the end of that.
Okay, and did you get a response?
Not that day. Well, let me see. That was on March 18th.
That's
March 18th. So later that afternoon, I did get a response from. No, I sent that. I sent that on March the 18th of 2014. You can see that in Exhibit 4. And on March 19th of 2014 at 9:04 a.m., I received an email response back from Chief Hubanks, which says, I received the communications last week, and I forwarded them to Attorney Scott. I intend to respond to your FOIA when she advises me to do so. In your letter yesterday, you list some of your frustrations and you threatened to file a complaint against me. If I have an accurate read on the situation, we will probably correspond again. You have no need to present me with an FOIA unless you require personnel records. However, when you do, I will formally involve the city attorney. Otherwise, this stuff is public domain and I will freely give it to you. I will even have someone deliver it to your office. As to your filing fee, take a deep breath, relax, peace of Christ, J. Hubanks, and that's Exhibit 4.
Okay. And so that's in response to your March 18th.
Right.
So what happens next?
Well, and it's not an exhibit for it, but the next thing that happens at 10:37 on the 19th of March, I filed a complaint against the Chief of Police.
Okay.
There was, I received just that evening of the 18th, the day on the 18th, I finally, after my letters and such, I spoke with the city attorney, and she advised me that there was a lot of information that I requested, and that it was going to take some time. It was going to take many days to amass all that. So I said, well, it's been multiple days. The emails were something that you should have been able to put on disk immediately. And she said, well, I can get those to you by noon tomorrow.
So when did this conversation take place?
That took place Tuesday evening.
Tuesday evening on March 18th.
March 18th.
And then subsequently you filed.
Right, I got a letter from the chief in the morning basically telling me that I would get the stuff when the city attorney told him to give it to me. And I didn't see any relation to that in the law. So that irked me. So that's when I went on and filed.
And then you filed a complaint on March 19th.
I filed the complaint, and then as luck would have it, like a minute after I filed it, I get an email from the city attorney that says, I have documents provided to me by the Pine Bluff Police Department Internal Affairs, which are available for your review.
And you were referring to Exhibit 5?
Right. And it says, before copying per your request. My schedule is open for the remainder of the week. Now, I just wanted to advise the court, they haven't provided the emails yet that they said could easily be provided. That all this other stuff was going to take time. And then I get an email telling me that not the documents that I requested were available, but some documents from somebody who I didn't request them from were available in her office. And so at this point, I'm pretty upset. So I sent her a response that said, I asked for the emails, where are they? And shortly after that, I sent them my request at 10:43 a.m. She sent that at 10:38. At 10:43, I said, well, where are the emails? At 2, right. At 2:02, I get an email from the city attorney with the purported emails that I requested attached. But what she sent, what was attached, was just like 4 pages. So at this point, I'm happy I sued them. I didn't know what to do, but this is what she provided to me as a proper response to my email request for all the emails for all those people. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages, which are Exhibit 8.
Okay, so just to go back a little bit, so on March 19th, she responds with sending you an attachment, Exhibit 7. Exhibit 7 is the email. Exhibit 8 is the actual attachment. Right. So I guess tell us what is, I guess, in those, or what was in those. I have absolutely no idea. It's totally non-responsive. It's just like she just randomly picked up something. It appears to be an order from the Honorable Berlin Jones that I guess that had something to do with the Monroe Isadore shooting investigation that had nothing to do with my FOIA request, so I don't know why that was even in there. And I believe the order was supposed to be for the period of the investigation, at which time when it was over, they released all the documents. So her providing me an order saying, like, if I was to really extrapolate and guess, I guess she's saying, well, the judge has ordered that this stuff be sealed, so you're not entitled to it. Now, she doesn't say that, so I don't know. I guess we'll have to ask her. That's what it says in the order. Yeah, this is what it says in the order, and she, or maybe this is someone's email. I don't really know what she's claiming these are, other than when I ask for the emails, she sends me an email back with this attachment that says that it is entitled FOIA Emails Isadore. Okay, and that's Exhibit 8. So go, even though you may not, I know you said that they're unresponsive. What's going on in the other emails or the other attachments?
I mean, I don't know what the rest of the attachment is. It just looks like there's an email from someone named Sergeant DeFore to News 16, KTV, KTHV that was sent back on 9/13/2013. How this is responsive to my FOIA request on March 13th. I don't know. There's another email from David DeFore, which says attaches a press release. I guess she sent me, and these appear to be the final 2 pages, appear to be press releases from the Bluff Police Department, which I just want to note, I didn't ask for any press releases, and the documents that I asked for that include certain things. And if this is responsive, I don't know what it's responsive to. They definitely haven't indicated that it was responsive to anything I asked for other than the emails that I requested. And I only discern that because she titled the file that was attached FOIA Emails. But that's the most that I know about that.
So you get these emails on March 8th or
March 19th.
On March 19th from the city attorney, it appears to be unresponsive to your FOIA request.
At 2:02 p.m.
Okay. So what happens after that?
Well, at that point, like I say, I'm happy I sued them. I'm like, because they're just not going to respond at all. I mean, she sends me an email saying some documents that are available that I didn't ask for. And then she sends some purported emails that really aren't emails at all. And I guess So I'm like, I'm ready to have my day in court. And then the next morning, March 20th at 11:58 a.m., I get an email from Chief Hubanks that says, I'm informed that the emails you requested will be ready this PM. I will have them delivered to you if you like. Please advise.
So I guess what did that mean to you? Because you thought you already received the email. So now he's saying that.
I was like, well, my feeling was that, well, the chief has been sued and served, and now he's going to comply, even though he was. It appears that he and the city attorney had determined not to comply officially. I mean, but, and I'm just, it is speculation.
Well, basically, he was going to perspective. I believe that he's just what he thought at the time. So, okay. So after you see this email, I guess what happens next?
Well, I asked the chief to. I thanked the chief for sending them to me, and I think my email is next. I'm real concerned. It's like now the emails are he said he's going to provide the email, but what about the other stuff? So I asked him, will all of my FOI requests be ready this evening?
And you're referring to Exhibit 10.
Exhibit 10. And I sent that to him. Now his first email was at 11:58 saying he's going to send me the emails. And then at 12:08 I responded saying, thanks, will my FOIA request be ready this evening? And at 12:51, the chief responds to my response and says, Attorney Scott advises that the remainder of the FOIA request will not be ready. And that is the last communication I had from either the city attorney or the chief of police concerning them producing my FOIA request. They said that they're not going to be ready, and I hadn't heard anything else other than we had a hearing in here on the 24th. And at that point, the city attorney says, well, everything was ready in her office on the 19th, and I hadn't made arrangements to come and view what she claims was ready. I mean, I had no reason to believe that the stuff I asked for was ready because she never told me that it was. The other stuff, she sent the emails that same day, which really weren't emails. And now I get a letter from the chief, an email from the chief the next day saying that the stuff is not ready. And they would, advise me further. And I haven't heard anything now. But last week, the chief and the city attorney responded to the amended complaint saying, basically that I've concocted this whole thing, that they provided the email, the substance, not the non-email stuff on the 19th. When we had the discussion, the emails were what she could easily provide. So she's trying to have me believe that the stuff that they claim they need all this extra time for was they were able to provide that prior to being able to provide the emails, when we all know that the email process is just merely having a tech person come in and store these emails. It takes less than 10 minutes. I've seen that done many times myself. But she's saying now that everything I asked for, in total contradiction of this email that the chief sent to her on the 17th, saying that can you narrow it? I mean, it doesn't appear there was any reason for them to narrow it if they could produce it all by the 19th. And also, the chief's email to me on the 20th that says she needs more time. And there's just one other thing that there was also in the amended complaint, and I think we covered it in the hearing on March 24th, that the city is claiming that some of the information that I requested was not provided because they didn't have to provide it. However, the FOIA law says that if there's any information that they think is exempt from being provided, that they need
to let me know within 24 hours of me submitting my FOI request that that stuff is not going to be provided, and they need to detail what they're not going to provide, so I can come to you, Your Honor, or go to the Attorney General and request that the Attorney General give me an opinion, or request you to determine if the information they're claiming an exemption, if it is in fact exempt. I mean, right now, my understanding is the city says there's a pile of information, and we've extracted portions of this information, and we're saying it's exempt. You don't get to know what we pulled out. We're not going to provide that to you. And so I really don't know. I know that in their amended complaint they're saying that they have provided everything per the law, and I just don't believe that to be factual.
Is there, I guess, any other information reported?
I don't believe so.
So, just to be clear, what are you essentially asking for?
Well, I'm asking for the Chief of Police, the custodian of records, for the records that I asked for to be held in contempt, because he did not follow the law set out by the Freedom of Information Act of 1967, I believe, which says he has to keep the public's business open and clear, and he needs to provide these records. He didn't provide the stuff, and it's not clear why they haven't provided this stuff. But since now they're claiming they provided this stuff, I would request that the judge order them to provide it post haste, and to sanction the chief for not complying with the FOIA law, and to provide attorney's fees for us having to go through this whole process to get the chief chief officer in the city of Pine Bluff just to obey the basic state of Arkansas Freedom of Information Act law. That is all I'm asking for: the documents, sanctions, and attorney's fees.
No further questions, Your Honor.
I did get a call that evening saying that someone had called late afternoon trying to get in touch with me. I was in mediation all day. That is correct. That is correct. You didn't answer the phone. The next day. No, that was just, let's be clear. You asked me, I attempted to call you. I did. I attempted to call you that same day and there was no answer. Then I called the next morning. So we were talking about two different calls because I called you more than once. Yes. Yes. Right. Correct. Yeah. Right. That's not how I remember it. I said that I believe you guys are basically out of time, and you were just calling me now, and you said, well, this is a lot of information. We're going to need some more time. And I said, well, you could at least have provided the emails. And you said, well, I can get those emails to you by noon tomorrow. Not that day, but the next day we had several communications, you and I. You purported to send me the emails the next day. I was thinking 3 o'clock. Well, I mean, I would like to ask you about those in a minute. No. I hope my representative plans to ask you that. I will go to. And incidentally, that's how we came across in my emails. We had a computer we need to prove that to the court. The way it's washed out is not something that happened in my group. It looks like it said, attached is an order issued this afternoon ordering all law enforcement and law enforcement employees to release no further information, including discussion, communications, or any releases of information regarding the Monroe Isadore case. Yeah, I did. This is the attachment. These 4 pages are the attachment. No. Which was the order, but this email was part of the attachment. The next page says, press release, December 6, 2013, reason. Okay. That's not what I said. Right. You said I have the documents. Okay. That part is correct. You advised me that these documents were available for my review. This is not what I asked for. I mean, I didn't ask for documents from the Pine Bluff Police Department Internal Affairs. I mean, I don't even know what you're claiming to be providing. It doesn't say that these are responsive to the FOIA request. And I just remind you that this is less than 24 hours after you told me it's going to take a lot of time because the request was so broad that there was going to be a lot of stuff. So the very next day, you hadn't provided the emails, which you said were going to be easier to provide. You could provide those by noon. Those hadn't yet been provided. No. You advised me that some documents were there available for my review. But I will draw your attention to the email, not the ones I asked for. immediately when you said that these documents were available. You did not answer. At that point, I went directly over to your office, even though you said you were going to be there for the remainder of the week. And I went and saw your secretary, and I asked for you, and she advised me that you were not there and wouldn't be. And that's when I gave her the complaint that I found at 10:37. So not only did I call you, but I went to your office within 10 minutes of this email, and you were not answering the phone, and you were nowhere to be found. No, I called and there was no one answering the phone. I called, this is at 10:38, I filed a complaint around 10:37. I probably called within 2 minutes of receiving this email. I know I was in your office right around 11:03 or 11:04. I got an email that said that the documents, you had some documents ready and that you would be available for all week. I called, you weren't there. I called immediately, you weren't there. I went to your office immediately, you weren't there. I mean, I think I did what I could do. Even though the email is clear that the stuff that you had isn't responsive to what I asked for. The last communication I had, I went by your office that day when you said you were going to be there and you were not there. And then the very next day I got an email from the chief saying that you were going to need more time to produce those documents. And I haven't heard from either of you since telling me the documents that I requested were available for my review. This is the only email that I had, and I got a subsequent email from the actual custodian of records saying you told him that you needed more time, that they weren't ready. I'm trying to respond to your questions.
So you never did actually, you came to the office 2 minutes after I sent your email.
That's
and
correct.
you did not schedule anything with my secretary to set up a conversation. You just showed up.
She told me you weren't there. She weren't there.
And your response to me when I asked the emails for her, right? Now, filed your complaint on March 19th. And at that time, you attempted to serve my secretary, correct?
And the chief.
And the chief secretary.
Yeah.
You didn't actually serve the mayor until 30 months, correct?
Right, because I still don't believe the mayor was necessary to serve, to get the custodian of record to follow the law.
But you didn't serve the mayor until 30 months. By that time, everything was available to you.
I have no idea if everything's available to me to this day. Like I will say again, the last communication I had from you or Mr. Chief Hubanks regarding this was that you needed more time. You have never emailed back to advise that you had enough time and you've gotten everything together and everything's ready. I've never gotten an email from you or a letter saying that you have this stuff and it's ready. I will say that the last communication I got from you is in here from the chief saying you need more time. That was
But
it.
the email that I sent you,
Was almost 24 hours prior to that email.
well, I'm just saying, but you never communicated with me.
I called you and you didn't answer the phone, and I went to your office within 5 minutes. And then the actual person who was over the document said they're not ready. He also sent me emails that you had already sent me that previous day, but they were different emails.
There's a lot of discussion about you calling. Now, why were you basically calling the city attorney's office? What was the purpose
Well, first of all, I was going to ask her, what are these documents that you claim to have? I mean, here's a situation where they're saying, you know, there's so much stuff, it's going to take us time. We need time to get this stuff together. And as a compromise, you know, give us some time and we'll get you the emails by noon tomorrow. Then I get a letter from the chief in the morning saying, you know, I'll give it to you when the attorney tells me to give it to you. So I'm hot at that point. And then I get an email from her saying, basically, you asked for apples, and I got a box of fruit over here that you can look at. You come and see if there are any apples in it. And to me, it's like, this is a person who uses words as a profession. This is how she eats for a living. And she doesn't know the difference between sending me an email that's responsive. I'm not disparaging.
Mr. Walker.
And I will say, I apologize if she thinks that that's what I was doing. That's not what I was doing. I felt like she was basically using, you know, her profession and playing with words, not saying, okay, you want to say you asked for these documents? Let me just tell you, I got some documents that are ready for you. That's what I felt like. And that's why I was like, it was a good thing I was in Pine Bluff, because she said she was available. So let me call her right back and see what she's talking about, what she provides. So I go into her office, and she's not there.
Okay. On that point, Ms. Althea, she was questioning you about Exhibit 5, where she sent you the email saying to schedule a time. So essentially, you called. Your purpose in calling was to schedule a time.
Yes.
And then you also went by the office.
I went by.
And she was not there.
She was not there, nor did I receive a call back.
Okay. And you were told by the person, or correct me if I'm wrong, were you told by the person there in charge of the records that the records or the documents weren't either?
No, I was just told by her secretary that she was not there.
Okay, so were you told by anybody that the documents weren't available?
I was not. But
for review?
she had advised me in her email that the stuff was good. Not only that the stuff that was there was ready and available for my review, but that she was available for the remainder of the week.
Okay. And I guess Exhibit 11 by the chief, he does, however, say that the exhibit, or I'm sorry, that the request won't be ready.
According to the email that the chief sent me the following day in the afternoon, is that Attorney Scott advised me that the remainder of the FOIA request will not be ready.
Ms. Althea, she asked a question, why didn't you communicate to her that that you couldn't get the...
I called and went by her office.
So you weren't able to get in contact with her?
I didn't try subsequent to that because, like, my understanding is that day she sent me an email that had reported details out. She also said that she sent this other stuff that I thought clearly was unresponsive, and I sued them that day. Now, it seemed the next morning that the chief, after he had been served, was willing to actually provide the emails, and he sent me. His attitude seemed to be different than the previous email. We had a very pleasant exchange, and he did produce the emails to me. He had someone drive up to Little Rock and bring them to my office. And it was in this pleasant email exchange that he told me that he spoke to Attorney Hadden-Scott, and that she advised him that the rest of the information that I needed was not available, or will not be ready.
No further questions, John.
Chief of Police, Monroe Police Department.
Alright, so I'm gonna jump right into it. Can you tell me, when did you first receive FOIA request for
Whatever date the initial email was, I don't recall. Receive is a matter of, I guess, discussion out of the office that week. And that is why there was an initial delay on the response, which I apologize for. And I'll admit I didn't perhaps have the most efficient system in place to deal with an FOI when I wasn't there.
Okay. So,
I took a couple of days off.
okay, so when do you know the date of the email or the fax that was sent to you with the FOIA request?
It can tell me all.
What was it March 13th?
If that's the first one, yes.
Okay. And can you tell me, when did you first make contact Lawrence regarding the FOIA request?
My first contact with Mr. Walker.
Yeah.
Whatever would be the response email that he unfortunately took exception to, whatever that date is.
Okay. That's your email?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's the first time that you made contact with Mr. Walker? Via this email?
That's, I believe, yes, that's my first communication with Mr. Walker. Let me correct, that's my first response to Mr. Walker.
Correct. And can you read the date on that email? You did before the email was your first response?
Well, it says Wednesday, March 19th. I don't know if that's the same receipt date. It's not obvious to me.
What's the date that it was?
If that's the day Mr. Walker received it, then that's the date that I sent it.
So when did you actually first respond to the FOIA request?
As far as response, it seems like I was either my office called or I checked emails the previous week. Am I correct that the initial was on Wednesday or Thursday the previous week? That the initial contact?
Yes, well, it was actually March 13th, which was on a
Okay.
Thursday.
All right, I was out a couple of days, but at some point, I apparently became aware of it and directed my secretary to start forwarding and working on a response. Even at that, I'm sure I was probably 24 hours behind the curve on even knowing that I had received or knowing that I had the email that I had the request.
Okay, so I guess, can you give me a date on which you responded to the request?
I guess Wednesday, March 19th would be the beginning of, but I know that we would have been gathering information prior to that. It seems like I got a physical service of documents at some point during the week of March 19th or just prior to March 19th.
Okay, but the email, you didn't actually respond in the email. You didn't actually, I'm sorry, respond respond to the FOIA request, and then maybe just actually responded to the general, you just made contact with Mr. Walker, is that correct?
On Wednesday, March 19th.
Right, so,
yes.
okay, so do you have a on about or exact date when you actually responded to the request that was sent on March 13th?
Whatever day Mr. Walker received
Okay.
the first of anything that I sent him, that would be, I guess, the proper definition of response. Responding to his FOI.
Why didn't you respond within the I guess, the statute required time of 3 days?
I was unaware I'd been served for a day or two, I believe. And then when I was aware of it, we set about responding to the request.
Can you refer to Exhibit 11?
I'm there, yes.
Okay. Can you tell me what that email is?
That's an email that I sent to Mr. Walker, and the date stamp is correct, at 12:51 p.m. on March 20th.
Okay. Can you go ahead and read that to me?
To Lawrence Walker, Attorney Scott advises that the remainder of the FOI request will not be ready, and signed JH, my initials.
And did you send that?
Of course, yes.
Okay. Yes. Why did you send that? Were you advised by Ms. Athea that they weren't going to be ready, or?
Well, the issue of ready pro or con was Mr. Walker's word. I was referring to it in that framework.
So what did you mean by ready?
Well, whatever he meant. Available, open for review. I mean, I don't know. That was his word. You know, Attorney Scott did not use the word ready necessarily. My memory of this is that the documents had been, I mean, I know we got the documents to Attorney Scott, I don't know what date, but prior to this.
Prior to March 20th?
Yes.
So why were you advised by Scott that it was not?
Well, they had apparently been missing each other in attempting to communicate and get together for a review of the lot to figure out what needed copying and what did not. That's my understanding.
So it would seem that you would maybe say that a review date hadn't been finalized, but I guess
Well,
that the.
I wouldn't say that because that's communication between Mr. Walker and Attorney Walker and Attorney Scott, and I wasn't privy to it except from Attorney Scott's description that we've been missing each other when we're together.
Okay, so this email, the fact that the requests weren't ready,
Well, this
not accurate, I guess.
this was in response. I think there's a slightly more, expanded issue here. I believe we were also discussing the emails, if I remember the context, and I had those delivered to Mr. Walker's office, and that's when he asked, seemingly as an aside, will the other stuff be ready? No, it won't be ready. No, we're not delivering it.
When did you deliver those emails to Mr. Walker's office?
I don't remember when I had that done. I had somebody from Office of Professional Standards hand delivered.
Does March 19th sound about right?
Yes.
Okay. And you're aware that that was still after 3 days of the required time provided by the statute?
No, I'm not aware of that. That issue of the emails, I think, was a refined or it was an extension of the specific request for the emails came after the initial. Because I think I was trying to narrow things down just a little bit. And
well, the emails, the requesting of the emails are in the initial FOIA request that was sent March 13th.
may well be. But I asked for, I recall asking Attorney Scott if there was a way that we could narrow the field a little bit, so I could respond better. And actually, Mr. Walker made it easier. He said, just send me all emails. So.
Right, which was still in the initial March 13th FOIA request. It said all.
I don't think it was worded quite that way, but.
It's all emails referring to whether it's shooting or
I'm not going to argue about it. I don't remember.
Okay,
I don't remember.
But I guess the main question is the date that you responded or sent some of the response was on, I think I said March 19th, but to be exact, I was wrong. It was March 20th when you delivered the disc, which was still not within that time frame.
Okay.
So it was not within the 3 days that was required.
The delivery of the disc.
Yes.
I think that the modified request for the emails, I'm quite certain it was well within 3 days because I had it gathered and sent as soon as I got the request from Mr. Walker that something I could more easily respond to, something that I could identify as being doable. But I am, however, aware that March 20th is more than 3 days from March 13th, if that's what you're trying to get me to say.
Right.
Well, obviously.
Are you aware of, I guess, the time allotted for you to respond?
On FOI?
Yes.
On some issues that are, and I don't remember the exact wording, but I have 24 hours for some issues, and then others that require a bit of work or digging, for lack of a better, up to 3 days.
Right. So the responses that, even if they were unresponsive, they still weren't within that time.
I'm not going to go on with it being unresponsive. That's your characterization, man. However, again, as far as the emails, when Mr. Walker modified his request, and I was able to make clear, concise sense of it, and when he said all, that made things easier, and that's what we sent. And that was within a timely manner. In fact, I think the next day, if I remember correctly, I had something that I could act on.
I guess just to be clear, can you refer to Exhibit 1? On the second page? And can you read for me?
It's being Googled. But I am, however, aware that March 20th is more than 3 days from March 13th, if that's what you're trying to get me to say.
Right.
Well, obviously.
Are you aware of, I guess, the time allotted for you to respond?
On FOI,
Yes.
on some issues that are, and I don't remember the exact wording, but I have 24 hours for some issues, and others that require a bit of work or digging, for lack of a better, 3 days.
Right. So the responses that, even if they were unresponsive, they still weren't within that time.
I'm not going to go on with it being unresponsive. That's your characterization, man. However, again, as far as the emails, when Mr. Walker modified his request, and I was able to make clear, concise sense of it. And when he said all, that made things easier, and that's what we sent. And that was in a timely manner. In fact, I think the next day, if I remember correctly, I had something that I could act on.
I guess just to be clear, can you refer to Exhibit 1? On the second page? And can you read for me 4, 5, and 6 regarding the email?
Number 4 says all emails received or sent by you that mention or discuss Pine police officers involved. It's all been mentioned. Pine police officers talking about friendly fire. All emails that discuss friendly fire in the last year. And to parse it out that way, I was having difficulty figuring out how to do that. When he says, then he modified the request to just all emails, that was easy.
I guess how long does it take to put the emails on one of this?
Well, if you're looking at one person's emails, I think Mr. Walker, Attorney Walker referred or characterized as or perhaps a 10-minute operation, and that's probably not wrong. In this case, however, I think it included myself, the assistant chief, the deputy chiefs. I don't remember if it was more than that, but that took a little bit longer. But, an hour perhaps to get the IT guys squared away to go actually do it and load it.
Okay, so an hour, I guess would have been quicker to respond to, because you said that he made his request nearer, I guess, essentially.
In this case, broader was actually easier to respond to because we didn't have to do keyword searches.
Okay.
Keyword search takes time because the search engine has to chew it and the hits, and it was actually easier when he said just send me everything. That simplified things tremendously.
Okay. And I guess send him everything would take, was it 10 minutes or an hour?
Well, since it was multiple requests, it'd be more like the hour or give or take. contact with the, in some cases it's an attorney, in some cases it was just a person, an interested party, and I'll help them narrow the request to what they actually want, and it makes it easier for us to respond and a little less expensive as well.
Now, in addition, on the week of the March 13th,
For a couple of days a week,
Thursday, we have
I believe it was, almost certain that it was.
and
If it was the following Monday, yes. Either the email version or the physical filing, I don't remember which, but I was actually reading it for myself, at least for sure by that day. Never, no. I think I was aware of it by either my secretary said that a courier came or he said it in an email. I don't remember which way. I knew that to be the case. FYs. Sometimes it's a simple request, and when I get those, instead of sending it to somebody, I'm able to answer it myself. So I do, I have in some cases. In some cases where it is an expanded request that requires research and a little bit of time and diligence. The Office of Professional Standards is usually who I hand it off to for them to act on the request. Yes. It was more than I could do from my desk comfortably. Because I get behind. Never. In fact, I explained that I straight up said I intend to respond to your FOI when she advises me to do so. And the expectation in this case is that there's going to be some litigation of some description at some point. And I wanted your office involved so that you'd have an opportunity to be informed. And that's why I put that in there is to advise Mr. Walker that that's what we're depending on was, once I got the okay, we're there. In fact, we're talking past tense because in my mind I will be responded. I've done my due diligence and yes. For legal advice, because that's what you do. It's incumbent on me to take advantage of that. Never. Also, as to this email, I'd like to add that Mr. Walker mentioned is that about taking a deep breath. You know, I was responding to his request for advice about what to do about the filing fee, so I thought I was responding in kind. I wasn't trying to start a fist fight. And the piece of price part, it is net, or it was up until Saturday. So, piece of price. Absolutely not. No, I know better than to. There's an old saying about, you know, you don't mess with attorneys, you don't mess with people that buy their ink by the barrel. I'm a good student. I don't remember if we spoke or if you sent me copies of it, but I was aware to some degree that you had responded to Mr. Walker. Yes. Otherwise, there would be no need to, I mean, it was obviously in response to that FOI request. Yeah, well, I was letting him know we can, you know, we can do this on an informal basis. He can, you know, doesn't have to file a rafting paperwork, you know, do all this stuff. Just send me an email, tell me what you want, and get it. I mean, that's how a lot of people do. As far, is this? Are you referring to the emails that I had delivered to Mr. Walker's office? I think the time frame was how quick can you do it? And I think the response was we can get it either today or tomorrow. I mean, it wasn't a lengthy conversation. Yes, I was aware of a new deadline, and then apparently my email with piece of price and take a deep breath triggered filing. That wasn't what I was trying to do, but that's unfortunately how it worked out. Yeah, no, we haven't had time to yet. It was work in progress. We were going about the business of complying with the request. Okay. Ready was not your word. Mr. Walker asked if, in addition to the disc, would my other request be ready? And I responded in kind, no, they will not be ready. And that was, after discussing with you, I found that you said, I've got it all here. We haven't got together on parsing out what he wants copied, what he doesn't want copied. I would use ready as a generic term. That's all I mean by it. I know for a fact that the paperwork was in your office because we had delivered it to you. It was done. I think I asked if that was going to cross-purpose anything, any communication you had going on, just to make sure that I wasn't obviously we will in some way to responding as quickly as possible. This is part of the request that I do. I knew that they were ready because, again, we delivered them to your office. The discussion was your schedule, Mr. Walker's schedule. That's all I remember there being as far as a breakdown is a matter of schedule. And we're ready, again, the documents were ready. That was my poor word choice. They were ready. I believe so. On the 20th, if I remember correctly. I should have gotten here that afternoon. I don't think so. I think unless he makes a modified request, I think we're there as far as the FOI request. Again, it comes down to I am puzzled that it's a matter of scheduling a meeting to figure out what he wants and what he doesn't want out of this pile of papers. Delivery of the disc, I think yes, had been for like a day or two. I mean, yes, whatever day we got it to your office, and that's where that's where, as I understand, you and Mr. Walker were missing each other and just couldn't make the schedule.
Mr. Hubanks, now it's your testimony that the emails, it was, or I'm sorry, it's quicker to comply with the email request than all the other stuff.
Well, not to say that it's quicker to comply with a email request. I mean, with that specific one that was modified by Attorney Walker to say, just give me all emails, that was very easy to comply with. I mean, we didn't have to keyword, we didn't have to parse out. All means all, that's easy.
Right, as opposed to, I guess, complying with the document request, something like that. So was it quicker or easier?
Oh yeah, easier by far, I'm sure.
Okay, well, let me
I mean, I wasn't physically the one running and grabbing stuff, but I'm sure.
Right. So how is it that the document request was somehow complied with first as opposed to the emails?
Because the emails will comply with essentially almost same day. The documents, there had been a day or two to work on those, and those have been delivered to Attorney Scott's office.
Okay. And then, but the documents were actually sent to Mr. Walker, even though whether they were responsive or unresponsive or not, they were actually sent to him before the emails. And I guess I'm just trying to figure out, since the emails were quicker, I mean.
I think Attorney Scott sent whatever, as far as documents go, Attorney Scott forwarded whatever she forwarded. I don't know if we're aware of that. I can tell you that when he asked for all emails, we did a download, and either that day or the next day, they were delivered to his office.
Today, April 21st, has even all the requests been responded to that?
For my part, yes, has been.
So you have responded to the initial FOIA request of March 13th completely?
To the best of my knowledge, yes. Now, unless Mr. Walker comes back and says, no, I want some more documents, he can have those too, whatever he wants.
Okay, so the documents that he was referring to in the FOIA request, he responded to that responded to completely?
All of that was forwarded to Attorney Scott's office for review, and I think the discussion was Mr. Walker would pay for all the copying or whatever it was, and they were going to get together and see what he wanted and what he didn't. And I think we're here because that meeting didn't happen for some reason.
Is it fair to let them break down, I guess, communication between you and Mrs. Thea as far as?
Attorney Scott, no, we communicate quite well.
Okay, because some of your testimony also says that some things were ready, however, she hadn't provided it, or it was something that had to be worked out, but you would send an email to Mr. Walker saying that it was ready, however, she may respond that it was not ready.
This ready word is killing me. Whatever it was that was ready, whatever it was that I could send to Mr. Walker, I did. And the rest of it was a discussion between Mr. Walker and Attorney Walker and Attorney Scott.
Okay. And are you aware of any of the information requested by Mr. Walker being under exemption or one of the allowed exemptions by the statute? information that's not discoverable, but that cannot be requested. Are you aware of any of the information that was requested?
I didn't request anything, but as far as what I comply with, I think in one of the issues detailing a friendly fire, we have an investigation, and it's because of the nature of it and the closure of it, that was not open to FOI, as I understand it.
So I guess essentially you're saying that was under exemption, something that you did not have to comply with.
That one thing, to the best of my knowledge, that would be all that would be involved in that.
Okay, and are you aware that within 24 hours you are to make that exemption known to the person requesting that information?
Actually, I did not know that, but I communicated that with Attorney Scott at some point, that part of the request, I didn't feel like needed to be part of what was sent because it was exempted.
Okay, and to your knowledge, do you know if that communication that you communicated to her was it communicated to Mr. Walker?
I have no idea.
Okay. No further questions.
I believe so. I believe my secretary, when the physical filing got there, whatever day that was, the service, my secretary would have accepted for me, and she would know to farm it out and start gathering. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
disposition that they are claiming some exemption. The statute is clear to that as well. The statute requires that, well, first it lays out exemptions, and it requires that they give 24 hours in which they give notice as to which exemptions they're claiming. That was not done. So at any point, not only were they passed the deadline, they did not respond within the 3 working days, but they also did not meet the requirements of the statute, which provided that they must give this law 24 hours notice. Based on the evidence today and even in the pleadings, Mr. Chief Hubanks, he stated that he didn't comply within the 3 days, whether it was because he was in the office or not, whatever. But the statute is clear. There's no discussion there. 3 working days. The deadline. There's no, I don't think we're in dispute